Why do you never see cheese in any sort of Asian cuisine? In traditional Chinese culture there are several contributing factors. 1. Lactose intolerance. Simple enough. Point 2. Cultural factors. Chinese norms held a sharp distinction between the civilized folk who lived behind walled cities and barbarous nomads who lived on the outskirts. Because dairy was something associated with nomadic, herding tribes, dairy as a food was considered uncouth. Point 3. Poor culinary compatibility with tea. A while back some Western culinary experts did an experiment where they brought a variety of cheeses to China and had chefs who were experts in traditional Chinese cuisine taste them. The chefs noted that the flavors of particularly pungent cheeses weren't all that dissimilar to stuff like stinky tofu. The problem was that because cheese is more fatty and oil-based, its aromatic compounds couldn't be washed away easily with tea compared to the pungent elements in traditional Chinese cuisine. Edit. Found the article one was thinking of. Boop. EDIT2. I should specify. Thanks to friendly reminders in the replies. That this mostly is a Han Chinese culture thing. There are many minority groups in China that have a long-standing tradition of consuming cheese and dairy. I once had fried cheese in Guilin, a specialty of the Bai ethnic group IIRC. It's pretty common in South, for instance paneer, and West Asian cuisines. Focusing specifically on East Asian, which I assume OP is referring to. I've a crack theory. Didn't find any specific evidences for it. That I'd love some food history expert to correct me on. Soybeans. 1. Soybeans are native to East Asia, and only started to spread across the world in the 1600s. East Asians are also most frequently lactose intolerant. 2. Soy have very similar nutritional profiles as dairy. Proteins, fats, calcium etc. They are effectively the de facto dairy replacement. Point 3. East Asians' cuisines are rich in soy-based foods. Tofu, natto, miso, and, obviously, soy milk, just to name a few. While nomadic tribes would likely still rely on some forms of dairy, more agrarian societies could very well rely on the cultivation of soybeans. Subsequently, they are less reliant on milk and milk-derived products for their nutrients, and less likely to incorporate milk products in their daily cuisine. Higher rates of lactose intolerance, and not as much flat open grassland suitable for cattle ranches. South Asians have paneer. In China, nomadic tribes have long been eating fried cheese biscuits that are similar to paneer. There are a variety of cheeses that originate from Tibet. Japan has had cheese at least since the Asuka period. Lactose tolerance is something that can develop in human populations when there's the right selective pressure. For that you basically already need some kind of pastoral agriculture with an animal that can produce milk. It's more efficient to get your nutrition from the milk and products made from it than from just killing and eating your animals. Nutrition is power when the size of your group and their health and strength determine your ability to succeed compared to other groups competing for the same land and resources. We naturally have lactase, the enzyme that lets us digest lactose. As babies, the mutation to keep lactase into adulthood really just needs to keep that production going. And it has evolved multiple times in different groups of humans. The mutation we have identified for lactose tolerance is a single nucleotide polymorphism, which just means that it only requires a single change in the DNA of an individual, which makes it pretty easy to occur in a population. And if it's common for people in this pastoral society to give dairy products to their children, while they can still tolerate it, and then stop later in life, you would definitely notice when your kid suddenly never has the same reaction to dairy as everyone. else. Modern people in Asia are descended from people who split off before these mutations occurred in groups that ended up migrating to and settling in Europe, and they found an alternative efficient source of protein in soy. So cheese is not an important aspect of their culture for thousands of years like it is for other groups of humans, and they physically have trouble eating it. This is extremely generalized though. Asia is a big, diverse place, but the pattern you noticed is real, even though there are exceptions. Modern Korean food has started using cheese in some of their bar foods, or fun foods. But it's largely due to the influence of the US military having imported processed foods during the Korean War like Kraft cheese and Spam. In the Philippines, there's Kesong Puti or white cheese from Carabao's milk. Am I the only one who sees Asian cuisines with cheese? Because there's a lot, especially with Korean food. Smiling face with tear. Historically there were not a lot of cows, so dairy was not common. Depending on region, Asian is very broad, so traditional recipes usually will not have it, but plenty of modern ones do, and lots of cheesy Western food is available. Paneer is delicious cheesy goodness. Paneer is Asian. The first time I learned that over 2/3 of the world's population has some form of lactose intolerance, it blew my mind. I can't imagine not having dairy. Turns out lactose tolerance is mainly a hereditary thing that comes from people of Northern European heritage. In Asia there was a big exception, and that was the Mongolians. The fact that they could survive on horse milk and cheese made for horse milk was a huge advantage for them. South Koreans love cheese. The majority of Asia has a very high percentage of lactose intolerance. Dairy never was a part of their cuisine, and it hasn't really changed since then. Do you mean like never seeing paneer in Indian cuisine? Or like the non-existence of the Crunchies chain of Korean fast food restaurants? Depends on what part of Asia you're talking about. Cheese was pretty much a staple on nomadic diets of the Mongolians. See horse and yak curds. South Asians' definition enjoy cheese from common livestock as well. Cheese was used a dish served in West Asian diets too. Halloumi as an example. You've also got the Russians, who also made cheese from goats, sheep and cows. Not sure what Asians you're referring to, as it's the largest continent in the world and encompasses countless countries, diverse cultures. Bhutanese Bhutan, they eat cheese like a lot. Indian food is full of dairy. Last I checked, the Indian subcontinent is still part of Asia. Lactose intolerance is a lot more common the further you get from Europe and their colonies. So many cultures didn't really do a lot of the same things with dairy that others did. Have you ever been to Mongolia? Cheese are used in traditional Indian cuisine.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.